Hello and welcome to our collaborative film study. Presenting will be myself, Dan, Katarina, Alex, and Ethan. The film we chose to study is The Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. In this presentation, we'll be analyzing the leadership of Peter Quill and Yondu by exploring the contrast between the two leaders and making real-life connections to the business world, followed by concluding which leadership style presented the most effective form of leadership. I'm going to pass it off to Ethan to do a brief plot summary. Take it away, Ethan.
Thank you. So as for the plot, the Guardians at the beginning are hired by the Sovereigners to retrieve Anulax's batteries from the interdimensional beast called the Obelisk. Upon securing these batteries, the Guardians return to the Sovereigners to collect their payment in the form of Gamora's sister, Nebula. After their departure, it's revealed Rocket stole some of these batteries for himself, beginning a chase with the fleet of Sovereigners hunting down the Guardians. Mysterious ship appears to their aid, and the pilot of the ship is revealed to be Peter's father, Ego. Peter, Gamora, and Drax depart with Ego to learn the story of Peter's father, while Rocket and Groot stay behind to fix their damaged ship. Following this, Yondu and the Ravengers find Rocket and Groot and take them prisoner. A conflict between the Ravengers and Yondu occurs, and then mutiny ensues. So then Yondu is held prisoner with Rocket and Groot himself. The new leaders of the Ravengers begin ejecting those still loyal to Yondu. Consequently, Rocket and Yondu must set aside their differences in order to devise a plan and break out of captivity. Meanwhile, Peter learns more about Ego and discovers his intentions of interplanetary domination. Finding out he killed his mother in order to be able to access Peter, a conflict then ensues, beginning the final battle that the Guardians need to overcome. Rocket and Yondu make their way to the Guardians themselves, and then a final fight between the Guardians and Ego then follows. With the Guardians eventually finding a way to defeat Ego at the loss of Yondu, the film concludes.
So although there's no set captain or president in the Guardians of the Galaxy group, we can see clear informal leadership styles or soft power characteristics in Peter Quill. This crew was not a team that was created prior to the two movies, but a team that came together from very different parts of the universe through a commitment to one another, and it is evident that Peter is the glue or the common denominator that brought everyone together. There is a certain extreme trust that has built among all of the members of the group, and when we look at who the members look at in times of stress, it comes down to Peter. His laissez-faire leadership style has created this trust, and when thinking about it, if you're willing to go and fight the universe because you have faith in your team members and in your leader, that trust must be a fundamental element in that group dynamic. Yondu is a more formal leader with positional power among the Ravagers, and we see this because he's referred to as captain by his crew, and his leadership is mentioned and also questioned a lot throughout the film. Although Yondu does not take part in the action of the Ravagers, he takes more of a transactional and autocratic leadership style, as his focus is more towards supervising and managing his crew, as he is the final say in all of his decisions. Peter Quill demonstrates characteristics of being a dreamer throughout the movie, and we see examples of this the most when he refers to his dad. Peter grew up not knowing who his dad was, so he told everyone that David Hasselhoff was his dad while carrying around a picture of the actor. He idolized this unrealistic idea of his father, only to realize that he wasn't who he was hoping he'd be, and in the end, he realized that he already had the family he wanted and he needed. We also see characteristics of an effective leader in Quill's character, as not only does he play a large role in creating plans for the Guardians of the Galaxy team, but he's also a very active participant. There are some leaders who dictate from the sidelines, but Quill showed equal involvement in action and planning throughout the film, such as when they were fighting the space creature at the beginning of the film. Yondu, on the other hand, demonstrates the characteristics of a doer. His vision for the Ravagers is quite clear and short-sighted, to thieve and make money. We see examples of this in clips where Peter's childhood and upbringing along Yondu's side is referred to, and Peter is told that he was kept by the Ravagers because he was small and could fit in tight spaces. Good for thieving. When looking at Yondu's leadership style and his relationship with his crew, he didn't tend to involve anyone else in his plans and decided to do whatever he wanted, however he wanted. We see examples of this when his crew had Rocket surrounded with the intention of capturing and killing him, But instead, Yondu decreed that they were not going to follow through with the original plan, which led to his followers questioning his leadership and also resulted in his capture.
So then we look at the culture of our two leaders. So first we're looking at Peter Quill. It is shown that the Guardians have a clan culture. It's brought together as a team that enjoys working together. As the Guardians have shown on more than one occasion, they are a team that has chosen to remain together despite occasional arguments. They enjoy that working together and living together. This relationship has been developed over time, and while at the beginning it was brought together by a common need, after working this through, they began to see more than just the basic benefits of the agreement. They are able to maintain an open communication with one another, and in some cases, a little too open, but they never feel the need to withhold this information that they're sharing, indicating that they are comfortable with one another to share their emotions and ensure that problems are addressed before they become too problematic. They may have been formed over a jailbreak, but this team has allowed each other to grow, expanding their skills and allowing them to work in a team that's engaging and demanding. While in some cases, this team development has been only brought in by choices, they are able to assist the growth of skills and understanding to see this growth happen. In the movie, this is most noticeable with Peter, as he is able to harness his new powers with the help of his teammates, while in comparison, only moments ago, he was being overwhelmed by said powers. Issues that they may run into in this approach of a clan culture is going to be when this team starts to grow. Bringing in new individuals has going to mess with this team dynamics and the trust levels that have existed beforehand. In the movie, this can be seen when Mantis is first brought into the group. Alongside the team, they can struggle upon reaching mutually agreed decisions, this making it very difficult when the numbers grow. But as they continue to stick to collaborating, each member is going to make these decisions, and it's going to take a little bit longer and time consuming to get to a conclusive decision. Now, looking at the variables that make up their culture, it can be broken down into two different sections. The visible cultures of the Guardians are the symbols that they're going to be wearing most of the time. Evident in the second movie, they've got some variations of the Ravenger's flame that they gained after working with Yondu. Personally, their title, the Guardians of the Galaxy, was given to them as a joke, but is now something they all mutually agreed they're going to be referred to and identify as such. What would be considered as their office environment in this case is their ship. And even though their ship had been destroyed in past movies, and this is a new one, this is something that they take great pride in and have utilized once again. When it comes to the invisible culture of the Guardians, it is the fact that they see each other as family and they set outside rules and rituals to do so. For an example, taking care of baby Groot. At the same time, they have much importance in music, even though it was only beginning as something that Peter really found influence in. Now, when we take a look at Yondu's culture for the Ravengers, we consider it to be a market culture. As for the Ravengers, it is said that under the leadership of Yondu, it operates as something that is only for results and reward. In this case, it is focused around the success of a score or theft. This is making the team one that is driven by competition, and it is for success and profit. Nothing else motivates the Ravengers as much, and they're driven by this common purpose and brought together by it. Now, the negative aspects in this case are linked to the fact that to be able to maintain a crew, it's not a positive work environment. And many of these then lead to competition and a toxic environment. In this result, it led to a mutiny under Yondu. Now, when we're concerning the cultural aspects, the visible portions of the elements are pretty simple. They all wear very dark red leather outfits with the Ravenger's badge that they are proudly wearing. Now, for the invisible cultures, though, it becomes a little more complicated, as to be a Ravenger, you have to follow the code. The code is established and upheld and is the sole purpose and drive of the Ravengers. It's simple rules that one must follow to be a respectful criminal. Demonstrating in the movie, it is very fallen. It is also brought forward that they have a funeral ritual that is held in fallen Ravengers, which is called the Colors. Now we'll pass it off to Ethan for one more for you.
So, as for how each of these leaders have encouraged change, as for Peter Quill, I just listed off some examples of key characters. So, as for Gamora, Gamora is a character that has been raised on the ideology that you can only rely on yourself as an individual. Due to this, she has extreme trust issues, which in turn alienates her from the others on the team. Peter has been responsible for asserting the importance of placing trust in others. By developing a deeper relationship with Gamora, Peter helps her develop a different outlook. As for Mantis, from the beginning, Mantis has served a single individual without question. Due to her circumstance, she lacks the understanding of teamwork and friendship. Without question, Peter puts his trust in her and allows Mantis to join the Guardians. This shows her firsthand the joys of working together. Now, one of the power struggles that was implemented in this movie was between Rocket. By nature, he's very self-serving and egotistical. This leads to the power struggle, as mentioned. So over time, both Rocket and Quill have to continue to compromise with each other to develop understanding. This eventually allows the Guardians to operate in a more effective manner as compared from the beginning of the movie. Now, compared to Yondu on the other side, the people he's had influence in is, well, first Peter as sort of his adopted son. One of Peter's biggest flaws as a leader is that he lacks assertion. Consequently, he doesn't hold a title, hence him being more informal of a leader. As a role model, Yondu shows our protagonist the self-sacrifice, confidence, and decisiveness needed to become a more formal leader. As for Rocket, as mentioned before with that little mutiny instance, they had to work together. So they had a lot of connection during this movie. So separate to the power struggle between Peter and Rocket, Yondu shows a more formal leader style that could be implemented when the struggle may arise. This lets Rocket personally see a conflict of power leads to the destruction of the team. In the end, Rocket takes on a more secondary role in comparison to Peter, since he understands that his skills can be utilized better and aren't worth jeopardizing the actual team. So a bit of a side character, Kraglin, from the beginning is prominent that he himself is in a secondary position of power amongst the scavengers. Yondu recognizes this, and throughout the film, there are multiple instances of him grooming him into the next leader. By putting Kraglin into the role that requires trust and responsibility, he develops himself onto the next leader.
All right, so some of the lessons that we learned to translate to business. Our first lesson for business is that teams will be engaged when all members are being heard. The members that are being able to that are able to voice their concerns are key to promoting engagement. Having values that align with the business will lead to a feeling of belonging and commitment. Right now, we find ourselves in a pretty interesting time where workplaces are transitioning to a hybrid work model, and that presents an opportunity across the business world for leaders to hear from their teams and find the working arrangement that best suits them in order to ensure adequate engagement and commitment amongst their teams. Our next lesson for business is that when a team is able to collaborate using their independent strengths, they will achieve more. This involves pushing your team into the growth zone in order to maximize their skill sets, leading to a more enjoyable team environment where everyone is able to contribute. In today's world of increasing reliance on technology, it's so important for leaders to understand how to push their teams outside their comfort zone and into the growth zone in order to build upon their existing capabilities of their team members in order to adapt to an ever-changing business landscape. Our last lesson for business is accepting diversity within the team will allow for it to embrace the value that it brings. This makes for a team that is more open and flexible to new ideas, thus allowing for higher levels of performance and enabling teams to approach problems from different angles. This is especially important for business in a place like Canada, where we have so many different cultures and with that, different life experiences from members of a team. Being able to foster these different viewpoints and approach things from a multitude of ways is a huge advantage that leaders can capitalize on if they choose. Keeping those lessons for business in mind and referencing the analysis we did on Peter and Yondu, it can be concluded that Peter Quill's leadership style is the most effective. By establishing a clearer vision, more identifiable culture, and encouraging greater change and growth within the group, The Guardians are better able to leverage these components to achieve success. Those are our references, and thank you for watching our presentation. We look forward to your feedback. Thank you.